Get your beads out and let's make a pretty double strand bracelet. Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Luisa. Before we begin, let me remind you about the timestamps down in the description. You don't have to watch the whole video, you can skip through to whatever part you want to watch. And if you're new, please don't forget to subscribe because it helps my channel and it helps me stay motivated to create more content for you. And if you're a subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I'm so happy to see you today. I can't wait to show you this tutorial. It's very simple. It's a double strand boho style bracelet, and I'm using some of the beads from the April bargain bead box. But if you don't have any beads left or you don't subscribe to that box, that's okay. You can still make this bracelet. I don't want to make this video any longer than it should be, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Here's the lovely bracelet we're going to make today, and I just love the bronze and the purple. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. So it looks like a very simple dangle bracelet, okay? And you know, you really don't have to put a lot of thought into something like this. It's relatively easy to make, but if you're a beginner, there are some little things that are very subtle that you may not be aware of. For instance, I have different kinds of beads here. So these two may look the same, but they're actually not. This is a Czech round and this is a Chinese round. Okay, and they're both faceted and they're both the same color, but they're different shapes. Czech rounds are more oval shape and Chinese faceted rounds are more of a round shape. The reason I did that is because I wanted the bracelet to be a certain length. Okay, so you can play around with the lengths and you can adjust the lengths by adding things like bead caps and seed beads, and you can also adjust it by making your loops a certain size. Okay, so these seed beads are here for a couple of reasons. One, because they look nice, and two, because I wanted the spacing. Okay, I wanted this component to be a certain length. So this was somewhat planned. It wasn't just randomly put together. Okay, and I know a lot of you already know this, but some of the beginners may not. And this tutorial is just going to show you basically how to get over the challenges of making your bracelet just the right length. So I'm not going to put a ruler on this because I don't want to clutter up the screen, but I just want to show you that this component here from this loop to this loop is actually 1 1/4 inches. Okay, now I could have made the whole bracelet like that, but then the increments would have had to be 1 1/4 inch increments. So one way to get around that is by making different components with different kinds of beads, and that's exactly what I did. So this one here from this loop to this loop is actually a little bit more than 7/8 of an inch. It's more like 15/16 of an inch, and that includes the bead caps and everything. Whereas this one here is a little bit smaller. This one's actually 7/8 of an inch. Okay, and then this one, even though it looks like this one, is actually smaller still. This one's about 6/8 of an inch or 3/4 of an inch. So you can control the length of your bracelet very easily by using different kinds of beads, using seed beads, using bead caps, not using them, adjusting the size of your loops. And then of course you also have to take into account the length of your clasp. So this clasp without the jump rings, as you can see, I have 2 little jump rings here and another 2 here. But without the jump rings, it's about 5/8 of an inch. With the jump rings, it's 1 inch long. Okay, and that includes this piece here that goes, it actually goes inside this one here. It goes in like this, and then you just push it in. So you have to take the clasp into account, but you can also play around with it by adding some jump rings if you need more length. Okay, and the jump rings are there as well for a reason. The loops have to be facing a certain way in order for the bracelet to sit properly on your wrist, and we're going to be going over that later on when we attach the clasp and everything. But for now, I just want to go ahead and go over the materials. This is a very cute bracelet and it's very easy to wear. Another thing that I did with this one, I don't know if you guys can see this, I added a couple of jump rings right here. I didn't want these 2 strands to be moving around too much. So by putting the jump rings there, connecting the 2, it just holds the bracelet together a little bit. And I do this method a lot when I'm using a lot of chain and dangles, just to keep more control over what's happening and, you know, to keep the bracelet from tangling up. but these are totally optional. You don't have to add these jump rings at all, okay? The bracelet's just as nice without them. Another thing I want to point out to you is the quality of this metal. I can always tell when something's going to rub off on your skin, tarnish, and I can tell by the smell. And this clasp, unfortunately, had a very strong metallic smell. So whenever I smell that in any kind of metal, I always coat it with a type of sealer, and I'm going to show you a couple of brands that I like to use and how I do it, because that question comes up a lot. And it's always a good idea when you're using metals that you think are questionable to coat them, and also to protect the individual's skin, because some people have very sensitive skin. So any type of metal like this could cause a reaction, even though I know it doesn't have zinc. It's just always a good idea. I know for myself, my skin is kind of sensitive, and I just don't like that metallic smell on jewelry, so I like to seal it. But anyway, I'm going to show you how to do that today as well, so you'll get a little bonus tip at the end of the video. All right, let's go ahead and select the materials. And of course, most of the materials are going to be from the Bargain Bead Box for April, and I still have some beads left over, as you can see. So you're going to need 2 of these lovely violet pearls. Okay, so my center bead is going to be a large one from this bag, and I have several in this bag, and please don't ask me where I got it, because I really don't remember where I got this large bag. I think I might have gotten it on eBay, but I don't even recall the seller's name because it was a long time ago. But this is the bead that I used in the other bracelet, and this is what I'm going to be using in the tutorial today. It's a large faceted Czech round, and let me just give you the measurements. Czech rounds are usually oval in shape, so it looks like it's 11/16 this way and 12.3 this way. So I'm going to say 12 millimeters, okay? A 12 millimeter round is what you need. But if you don't have a large focal, you can certainly use one of these faceted coins that came with the box for April. It's really pretty, but you may have to play around with the spacing a little bit, okay? I'm also going to be using a couple of these 6 millimeter Czech rounds. And like I said earlier, they're oval in shape. So I'm going to be using 2 of those. And I'm also going to make a couple of components using these 6 millimeter Chinese faceted rounds, okay? And these are completely round. These are not oval shaped. But you know, there are no rules, guys, okay? Just use whatever you have. If it's 6 millimeters, you can just, you know, pull it out. And like I said, you can play around with the size of the seed beads or the bead caps. You're also going to need some bead caps, and I'm going to use 2 different sizes. I need larger ones for this 12 millimeter bead, and I need smaller ones for the other beads. These are the smaller ones. Let me go get the larger ones. I bought this bag on Amazon quite a while ago, and I selected 2 bead caps. By the way, I'm going to leave a link to the materials down in the description. Now this one I got on Beadbox Bargains, and I'm not sure if they're still available. I know they're about 5 millimeters in size approximately. They're small enough to fit on these 8 millimeter beads here. So 4 of these and 2 larger ones for the focal bead. And I'm going to be using these lovely 80C beads, and the color is matte medium bronze. And I just love this color. I've used it so much. And I use it for all kinds of things, not just for bead components, but I do bead weaving with this. And I just love the matte finish. That's one of my favorite finishes for seed beads. This is a very large tube that I got on the Jill Wiseman Designs website. And I don't mind paying for a large tube like this because it lasts me a long time. You're going to need some 20 gauge wire. And this is the Artistic Wire brand, and the color is Antique Brass. I don't want to use 18 gauge because then when you go to do the wraps are too thick. So 20 gauge is the next best thing. You'll need one of the box clasps that came with the April box. You'll need some tiny jump rings to attach the clasp. These are 4 millimeter in size. You're also going to need some large link chain, and this particular style, I believe it's called Mother and Son chain because it has a large oval and a small oval. I think that's what it's called. You may see it called something else, I don't know. But it's basically a twisted oval chain with 2 different size links a larger length. I think the larger one is 6 by 8 millimeters and the smaller one is 3.5 by 4 millimeters. But I'll leave the details of the chain down in the description. I don't know where I got this chain. I think I got it at a bead show because it's not labeled. It was just in a bag. But it's a very pretty bronze color and it's pretty good quality, and this is what I like to hang charms on because the lengths are nice and big. For the dangles, we're going to use a variety of beads and some of these beautiful acrylic flower beads. I love these. I got these on Amazon as well, and again I'll leave a link down below. But I'm going to use the purple colored ones or the violet colored ones. I'm only going to need 4, but you can use as many as you want to in your design. I'm also going to use these 6mm Chinese faceted crystals again, and I will need 4 of these for the charms. So basically we're going to make 4 sets of charms. Let me bring out the bracelet again to show you. So as you can see, I have 4 sets of 3 charms, okay? So 3 charms on each of these lengths. But you can make as many as you want to, okay guys? It's whatever you prefer. I'm going to use some of these 4mm Czech rounds as well, and again I'm going to need 4 of them. I love these because they have like a little bit of purple on them, a little bit of violet, and maybe some bronze as well. I'm also going to use these spacer beads that came with the April box. I only have 2 left, but I'm going to take 2 from the other bracelet when we get ready to assemble this one. But you'll need 4 of these. We're also going to be using the same 8 OC beads that we're using for the bracelet. We're going to use them for the charms as well. You'll need a bunch of bronze colored head pins, and these are actually longer than what came in the April box, but I did get these on Bead Box Bargains, I think. But anyway, you're going to need a total of 12. I guess you could use the ones that came with the box, but they're not very long, so you're not going to be able to wrap very easily, but you can do it. It's just really difficult if you're new. Okay, let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to start with the focal bead, okay? I like to straighten my wire a little bit before I snip it. So you're going to need a pretty large piece to begin with, okay? And I'm cutting myself a piece that's approximately 4 inches long, okay? For those of you who are beginners. Okay, so I have the wire and I have my bead ready with the 2 bead caps, and the reason I'm using a large piece of wire is because I'm going to be making some large loops. And I want to show you this tool because I found it in my toolbox and it's been there for a long time. I purchased them and never use them, and I don't understand why, but what I like about these is that they have these little grooves in there, which makes it really easy to make very consistent loops. And we're going to use the notch that's closest to the handle because that's the larger one. So basically you put your wire in there right where the groove is, right in the groove, and I'm going about 1/3 down the length of the wire, okay? And then I'm going to kink it, and because of the shape of this lower jaw with that edge there, you can make a very nice 90-degree angle bend. So let me put it back in here. Once you do that, then you take the short end and you wrap it around the barrel, just like this, reposition, chomp down again so that it sits right inside that groove, and continue to wrap around to the back. And then you can move the plier a little bit so that you can position that loop right where you want it. Okay, so this is what you should have. And these pliers are nice because it makes very round loops, as you can see. The brand is Euro Tools and it says Wolf Tools there, but if you go to Amazon and put in Euro Tools, Wolf Tools, Groovy Pliers, I think that's what they're called, you should be able to get some results. But I'll try to leave the link down below, okay? I think it's still available on Amazon. So once you have your loop, you're going to grab it with another set of pliers, and I use these are crimping pliers by Xuron. But I like to use just the very tip where it's flat because it really does a good job of grabbing that loop. And then with the second set of pliers, I take the little end and I do a couple of wraps. And because this is 20 gauge wire, you really don't need very many wraps at all. Once you have your wraps, You snip off the excess and then tuck that little end in, smush it down so that it's not sticking out. Thread on a bead cap, the large bead, the other bead cap, and you're going to do another kink. Now you want to orient this bottom loop the right way so that when you do this other loop it's facing the same direction, but you place your pliers leaving a little space there, okay, for the wraps, and then kink it, and again take the end, wrap it around, turn the plier a little bit until you get the loop right where you want it. Remove it. Grab it and then take the other end and do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess. And tuck in the little end. And I always check my loops to make sure they're facing the same direction. So there's your first component. Okay, very easy. Okay, now that we have the focal, we're going to do the other components, and I've already cut my pieces of wire here. I've got an additional 6 pieces here. So once again, you're going to make a large loop, and you're going to start by placing your pliers a third of the way down, kink it, wrap it around the barrel, flip your pliers around, continue to wrap. Now you're not going to close this one, okay, because you need to connect it to the focal. So leave the loop open and hook it through just like this. Grab the loop and then do a couple of wraps. Just like that. Snip off the excess and tuck it in. So now we're going to thread on a bead cap, one of the violet beads, another bead cap. Okay, grab the end of your wire, make your little kink, wrap the other piece around, and you can actually close this one now because we're going to form another component and leave the loop open for the next one. And then snip off the excess and tuck it in. Same thing on this side. Connect it before you close it. Do a couple of wraps. Snip off the excess. And tuck it in. Same thing, bead cap, pearl bead, another bead cap, same thing. You want to create that little kink, and then wrap the rest of the wire around your barrel. And then close it up by doing a couple of wraps. Check your loops, make sure they're facing the same direction, and snip off the excess. Tuck in any little ends that are sticking out. So that's basically it for this. So now we have the two components attached to the focal, and now we're going to do the rest of them. So next comes these check rounds. And it's the same process. Make your first loop and then hook it up before you close it. Snip off the excess, tuck it in, now this one's going to be a little bit different because we're going to use the seed bead. So 1/8 seed bead, 1 check round, and then another 8/0 seed bead, and these are the 6mm check rounds. Okay, same thing, leave a little space there for your wraps. Now you do need to be careful with seed beads because if you get the pliers too close they may shatter. Okay, so be extra cautious. Snip off the excess and tuck it in. That's that end. Let's do the other end now. Seed bead, check round, another seed bead, make sure you leave enough space for your wraps. Okay, so what you might want to do, guys, is just put it on as you go along just to make sure that you're getting the right length, okay? Because there are a lot of things that can affect it, okay? The size of your loops can affect the length, okay? Okay, so now we've got 2 more components. Seed bead, faceted round, seed bead, Sometimes you can actually attach your clasp right onto your loop before you wrap it, but today we're going to be using jump rings, okay? But that's another consideration. I like to use jump rings where the clasp is because it gives it more freedom of movement. You don't want it really stiff where the clasp is because you need to be able to maneuver that clasp and manipulate the clasp so you can close it. Line up your loops. Okay, so now we're going to finish this end. Seed bead, faceted round, seed bead. Later on, when you get really good at this, you won't need as much wire, okay? I'm recommending 4 inches initially just because I know there are a lot of beginners, and I remember when I first started, I was constantly struggling with my wraps. I wasn't giving myself enough length. Okay, so there's one strand. Pretty simple. The loops are very consistent. I love those pliers, I really do, because it just makes the job so much easier. So now we're going to get the chain, and this couldn't be easier, guys, okay? You simply take your chain and you're going to measure a length that's the exact length of the first strand. And if it's off by a fraction of an inch, that's okay. Now, what I like about this particular style of chain is that because it has large ovals and small ovals, I can choose where I want to snip it. So I could snip it here. I could have a large oval here and a large one there, but it's just a little bit longer than what I want. However, if I shift it this way and snip it so that the little link is right there and the other little link is there, I think that's a better length in my opinion. If your links are all the same, then you don't have to worry about it. But like I said, if it's off just a little bit, it's not a big deal. And here's a tip, guys, okay, to save your snippers. If you have links that are open, like this one is, instead of using the snippers, I would recommend that you simply open it up like that. Save your snippers, okay? That way your snippers will last you a little bit longer. So I have a little one here, and now I'm going to remove this one here. Same thing. So before we actually connect the clasp, we need to figure out where we're going to hang our dangles, okay? And you need to space them out evenly. So the best thing to do is to count the links and then do a little bit of math. And don't panic if you count an odd number because you can work with it, okay? So I counted 15 large ovals, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to space them out so that my charms are hanging 3 links apart. So I'm going to have one set of charms here and another one here with these 3 large links in between, and then another 3 large links, and I'm going to hang my 3rd set here and my 3rd set here. So I'll have one large link at each end sitting by itself, if that makes any sense. You'll see once I assembled everything what I'm talking about. So I'm going to start with nothing here, and then a set of charms here, then 3 links, a set of charms on this one, 3 links, another set of charms here, 3 links, and another set of charms here, and then the single link at the end, just like on the other end. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Here are all the materials for my charms. So basically we're going to have 4 sets of 3 different kinds of charms. One of these with a seed bead on either side, one of these flower beads with a 4mm bead inside of it, and one of these spacer beads with an 8/0 on either side of it. Okay, this is from the previous bracelet. So we're going to have 4 sets of these 3 charms. And this is so simple, guys. You just take a head pin, thread on your beads. There's an 8/0 seed bead, the 6mm Chinese round, another 8/0. I like to use these pliers to make small loops because they have a very tiny nose. Okay, these are lens strands. If you're interested, I will leave a link down below. And do a wrap just like you normally do. Form your loop just like that, and don't close it. Okay, you want to keep it open because now you're going to thread it onto the large oval or the link of your chain. We're not going to use jump rings. Okay, we're going to do each one just like this so that we don't have to worry about losing charms. Okay, sometimes when you use a lot of jump rings, there's a risk, there's a chance that you might lose a charm. Once you do your couple of wraps, same thing, snip off the excess and tuck in whatever end is sticking out. Okay, so that's the first one. So here's another thing you need to pay attention to. Okay, you need to make sure that you place all of your charms on the same side of your chain. So if you lay your chain down, you want to make sure that your little links are all facing the same direction. Okay, it's really difficult with twisted oval chain, but when you go to place your links, you want to definitely make sure that they're on the same side each time, all the way across. Okay, so once again, take a head pin, thread on a seed bead, thread on a spacer bead, another seed bead, form your little loop, and before you close that, hook it on to the same side. And then do your wraps. And tuck it in. Okay, and the third one is going to be the flower bead. So you're going to thread on the 4mm faceted round, the flower bead. You're going to thread it on like this. Okay, grab it, bend your wire, snip off the excess, tuck in a little bit. Okay, so here's what I do when I'm doing a bunch of charms. I do it production style, okay? And what I mean by that is I just go ahead and thread everything on, everything that I need to thread on, like this. I form my loop. I don't close it, okay? I just form it and I place it down. And I grab another one and I do the same thing. Thread on my beads, make a loop, keep it open, and put it down. And I do that for the entire thing, okay? And once I have everything lined up, then I go ahead and hook it up one by one and make the wraps, okay? So that's one quick way to do it. I just find it's more efficient when you do it like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I've created 3 little piles. Each one has one of the charms. So let me go ahead and speed up the video, and I'll go ahead and connect all of my charms. Okay, I have everything connected, as you can see. Doesn't that look beautiful? I love it. And here's my clasp. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and separate the this piece, and I have 2 little jump rings on each end. So you need to look at how that loop is sitting, and you want the clasp to sit on your wrist like this. So you need to take that into account when you're connecting your jump rings, okay? So I'm going to have to connect 2 jump rings, because if I use only one, then the loop won't sit properly on my wrist. So just open it up and then hook it up to one strand, and then your other strand like this, and then go ahead and connect the other jump ring to that one. Close it up carefully. These are very tiny. You want to make sure there is no gap at all. And then go ahead and open up the other side and hook on your clasp. Okay, so that's one end connected. And see how the loops sit correctly? That's what you want, okay? You want them to sit correctly so that when it's on your wrist, your clasp sits flat up against your wrist. Can you see that? All right, so we'll do the same thing on this side now. Open up a jump ring, hook one of the strands onto it, then hook the other one onto that, and close it up. Make sure you check your jump ring, make sure it's closed. And now we're going to connect the other one. Like this, and close it up. I know it's difficult to see because these jump rings are so small, but I will show you a close-up in just a second. So here it is, all connected. Okay, hope you can see that. That's this end, and then we have this end. Okay, so that's basically it, guys. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't it lovely with all these charms? I love the colors. I love the violet, the purples, this plum color right here. It's so pretty. So anyway, let me go ahead and put it on, and I'll show you what it looks like. So here's the bracelet. Isn't it beautiful? And there's the lovely clasp. And it's a very pretty design. Now I didn't hook up the jump rings like I showed you in the other bracelet at the beginning of the video. The jump rings just serve to hold the strands together a little bit, but you really don't need them. Alright, so now what I'm going to show you is how to coat this metal component with a protectant. My favorite one and the easiest one to use is this one here. It's called Permalac. And this is the semi-gloss. I think they have one that's matte, but I like to use the semi-gloss on most of my metals, and you get this one on Potomac beads. About the size of a nail polish bottle, and it runs for about $6. It's super easy to use because you just, it has a little applicator and you just brush it on just like you would nail polish, okay? So this is my favorite one to use. Another one that I like to use is this one. It's called Eternal Jewelry Coating, and it's the same thing. It comes with a little applicator, okay, and you brush it on. Now this one is very, very stinky, okay? It has a lot of fumes. So you should use it in a well-ventilated area. Actually, both of them should be used in a well-ventilated area. But this one is a little bit stronger, I think. And this one smells more like top coat, nail polish top coat. They both dry very, very quickly, but I always let them dry overnight just to make sure they're thoroughly cured. Now I do have a third one that I was going to try. This one right here. And I haven't taken it out of the package because it actually leaked all over the inside of this little bag. And when I tried pulling it out, it got all over my nail polish. But it's called Simple Shine, and it's the same thing basically. I mean, it smells just like top coat. So I'm not even going to try to get this one out, and it looks like a lot of it actually emptied out. So I may return this one. I got this one on Amazon. I got this one as well on Amazon, the Eternal Jewelry Coating. I haven't used this one yet. I was hoping to use it, but it's the same thing as the other two. And I have used both of these pretty successfully. Today I'm going to show you how to use the Permalac. Let me put something down to protect my beading mat. So before you coat anything, the first thing you need to do is to make sure that your components are perfectly clean and there's no moisture or lotions or oils of any kind. And then you simply take your jewelry protector, whichever one you use, and you simply coat it on just like this. It couldn't be any more simple. Apply a very thin layer, okay? Let it dry, and then flip it over and do the other side and let that dry. And then you can even apply a second coat if you want to, and then let it dry overnight because it's going to take that long for it to cure. And that's basically it, and that should protect the piece. It should stop it from tarnishing, and it'll protect your skin. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clean all of this up, and I'll come back and say goodbye. Okay everybody, I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. Don't forget, I have listed all of the materials down below. Sometimes it's really difficult to see them if you're using a laptop. Sometimes you have to hit, I think it says show more. You hit on show more and it expands and then it shows you the rest of the description. But look for it because it'll be down there. But anyway, I hope you do try to make this bracelet. It's very easy. I know you can do it. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. Just leave some comments down below. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day. Bye.